Well, with us this morning to review the papers, broadcaster and writer Edward Adu and the UK editor of The Big Issue, Paul McNamee. Morning to you both once again.
Morning.
Thanks for staying with us. Paul, let's start with you. The war in Ukraine. I remember being on an overnight shift here at Sky as the tanks rolled in, and here we are a year later, and we're talking about the counter-offensive. And in the Mail, they're saying it could be within days that this happens.
Yes, they're quoting Alexei Danilov, who is senior within the Ukrainian government. He gave an interview to the BBC, and they've also mentioned General Zaluzhny, who is head of the forces on the ground in Ukraine, who had sent a social media message, said the time has come to take back what's ours. None of this is a surprise at all. If you look at any media report across the globe, from Washington Post to TASS, the Russian news agency, they all know that this is coming and that Ukrainian forces have been regrouping and getting ready for quite some time. And it does feel that this is at a key and decisive moment for the war in Ukraine after the Russian invasion. And as you said, it's been going on for 15 months now. The Russians have claimed that they had held Bakhmut, whereas the Ukrainians said they've taken some of it back. And everything feels significant, but this particular counter-offensive with Ukraine pushing back, getting all their forces ready, getting ready to unleash whatever it is they unleash to take their country back from the Russian invaders. We will see. I mean, overnight there were stories of more drone attacks in Kiev by the Russians, with one person dead. It is something that the world is waiting to see what happens next, and I'm hoping that it delivers something positive for the Ukrainian people.
Yeah, we'll have the latest analysis here on Sky News as that happens. A bit of a gear change. A lot of the papers are focusing on Edward this morning and whether it has a future. And in the Mirror, they're calling it This Morning.
They're focusing on this. In fact, I just saw something on the Sky News on the Twitter feed, and ITV, I'm not sure if there's a breaking news story or whether that's come through, but ITV have said that they're not planning to axe this morning. And I've been talking about this over the past couple of days with colleagues and friends, and this morning it's the programme which it's kind of served us all. Richard and Judy from Albert Dock back in the 80s, I remember when I was off school, would often watch it if there wasn't any other cartoons, because I think for most people, when they were off school, it wasn't summer times or whatever, you'd have This Morning. It was the only programme you could watch. And fast forwarding to now, what's happened, I think it's tragic. I think, we can't speculate because it's, other than hearing what's going on, there's a lot of people feel either betrayed or feel sad about the situation. But I don't think it should affect a programme which has been around for 30 or 40 years, which has been part of people's lives. It's done so many things for people, for the community, I completely forgot the original person who used to be the agony aunt. Was it Denise?
Yes,
it was Denise. Back in the day. It was
yes,
Denise.
R.I.P.
I mean, Denise,
yeah.
She was the... May she rest in peace. I mean, so many. This Morning has been a big part of our lives.
It's a cornerstone to many.
It's a cornerstone. I don't think it will disappear. It may have a new team. It may relaunch. But I don't think what's happened connected with Philip Schofield should be the downfall of the programme.
We shall see who presents on Monday. I'll be tuning in. Paul, let's focus on the Observer now, because they're going in on this COVID inquiry and those WhatsApp messages and what's being denied access to. Take us away on that.
Yeah, this is a story that's going to come to a head very, very soon, because Lady Hallett, who's chair of the inquiry into COVID and all that went on around it, has requested unredacted messages, unredacted diaries, notebooks, all of these kind of things from within the Johnson government administration to trying to get to the bottom of what happened and where Britain is post-COVID. but ministers don't want to hand it over. They're trying to block it. They are they're suggesting that this is unnecessary. There has been a claim that this may hamper future policy decisions if they're forced to hand it over. And they're citing the Human Rights Act, which is ironic considering that the government had planned to try and overturn that. It does feel as though we are kind of on a knife edge with this, because as some people have said, Lady Hallett, she's obviously somebody that you can trust. It's not that she's going to make these things, put them in public forum. She's going to use them to get as much information as she can for her inquiry. And by suppressing this, I think that the government runs the risk of suggesting there's something to hide. So that is not going to help them, given that everything around COVID is the drag on, I suppose, the government trying to move on. When anything comes around on Boris Johnson, it's about the legality or illegality of gatherings that he held, and we know that there's further investigations into it. Johnson, of course, it's everybody's fault except his. He's never done anything wrong in his entire life. But this is another issue, I think, where the government are handling things badly. If they were open and transparent and they allowed the public to know that there was no block to get into the bottom of this, to get to the bottom of what led to it, whether it was austerity measures that led to policies that stopped the best healthcare being available, whether there was fit and proper things done to allow COVID contracts and it wasn't just money for pals to get particular.
Well, certainly the Cabinet Office are saying, look, we're committed to this inquiry, but there'll be many people following the investigation and the inquiry, including here on Sky News. I will shamelessly plug what we do here. Let's move on to the Express, Edward, because Luton, they're back in the big time, back in the Premier League. Back. But hey, they're going to need a lot of money, aren't they? Because their stadium, which is so interesting, is part of people's backyards.
It is. It's what makes Luton unique. I worked at Luton for many years on the radio. I studied there, and it's a great place, great community. And I was listening to an interview. My great friend and broadcaster Roberto Perroni was speaking to Nick. I've got to drop. Nick Owen, and who I believe was the chairman of the Hatters many years ago, and obviously he's got a close connection. And what he was saying about, at the time, kind of predicting, he said, look, if they go up, if they join the Premiership, if they win on Saturday, this will be a significant moment. And I think it will. I mean, there are plans, I think, for the Hatters to move to the new stadium. But I mean, when you go to the stadium and you see what it looks like, it just shows how it's the sort of humble vibe of the football club, that they've been through challenges, but they've stuck through it, and they've got to the point now where this is their moment, and they're going to do extremely well. And also, I've got to point out as well that for years, Luton has always been given knockbacks by the papers, TV, about what the place is all about. Not every newspaper and TV channel, but this is the moment where Luton's going to shine.
It's the underdog. It's the story of the underdog, and I always love that. Paul, talk to me about page 2 of the Daily Star. They're talking about, chippies facing a battering. But the last time I went in to get fish and chips at my local chippy, it was like 12 quid for chips and a bit of cod.
Wow.
Well, what glorious chips and cod Friday night at Chippy.
We didn't have takeout for the rest of the week, that's for sure.
This story caught my eye because, like you, when I went in on Friday, there was a sign in the local chippy and it said, due to the doubling in prices of potatoes, things have gone up. And this enterprising reporter has got into it and has discovered that for a number of reasons, and it is the same trio of reasons that the cost of living is impacting so many. It is the war in Ukraine, or so they say, affecting energy prices. It is the cost of potatoes that have shot up because it's difficult to try and get them in from overseas. It's COVID and Brexit. So there are this incredible number of things putting pressure on great fish and chips. And a lot of chippies are facing very real danger of not being able to open, a lot because of energy prices, but now because of the price of the most basic necessity, potatoes. Where would we be if we couldn't get our potatoes? Got to grow our own. I don't think it means that we can open our own chippies, but at least we can get them out of our garden.
I hear what you're saying. Very briefly, Edward, talk to me about Alexas in care homes. I'm not a fan of Alexas or any of those in-home devices, but we've got 30 seconds. Talk to me about
30 seconds. This is great. So it's helping people in homes to kind of interact with their families. So give you a great example. One resident in a care home, this is in Devon and Torbay, was read a story to her grandchild, and it's been billed as to try and help residents at this home to try and interact with their families.
Wow.
One, Dennis Reed, the director of Senior Citizens, said he just hopes that Alexa doesn't replace carers.
Edward, I'm so
I don't
sorry.
think that's going to be the case.
We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you both so much for your company today. It's been an absolute pleasure. More Sky News coming up after the break.